Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Kingdom Silver here, and today we are going to be covering a very important topic. We are going to be covering the gold and silver ratio. What is it? Why should you care? All that and more coming up. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the video. Thank you so much for checking out the channel. I really appreciate it. And if you haven't already, please smash that like button, comment, subscribe to the channel. And remember that while I am a licensed CPA, I am not a personal financial advisor. This is for informational purposes only. This is not personal financial advice. Do your own research. Consult a personal financial advisor and make the decision that's best for you and your family. So today, getting into the video, we are covering an article from Money Metals and from Mike Mahari. Apologies, Mike, if that's not the pronunciation of your last name. And it's all about the gold and silver ratio. So we're just going to cover the highlights of this article. It's a really good article. I would encourage you to look at it in depth, and I'll have a link in the comments. Not the comments. I will have a link in the description. So, what is the gold and silver ratio? Well, it's really simple. It's how many ounces of silver it takes to buy 1 ounce of gold. And at the time of Mike's writing, the gold ratio was 87-1. I did a quick calculation using the numbers tonight, and it is around 85.37 to 1 ounces of silver to get 1 ounce of gold. So, why is the gold-silver ratio important? Well, it fluctuates. And I think it's also important to know, hey, what is the gold and silver ratio today? But what are historical perspectives from this? What was gold and silver back, several hundred years ago? Well, we're going to get into that in a really cool chart in a minute. But Mike gives us some really good information. The first being that geologists in the mining industry are estimating that there's roughly a gold to silver ratio of around 20-1. However, from a mining perspective, right now we are producing around a gold silver ratio of 8-1. And you can see that from here, that there is an average of around 800 million ounces of silver per year that are mined as compared to 100 million ounces of gold. And again, he's saying these are rounded numbers. So that would say, hey, gold and silver ratio, maybe around 8-1. And he gets into some historical perspective here, what different countries put them at. It's believed that in Egypt, it was set at 2.5-1. Rome was 8-1. You can see that Congress had a fixed gold ratio of 15-1 when it passed its Coinage Act in 1792. So, that's from the historical perspective of what we're seeing. Again, this is a great article by Mike. Dig into it a little bit more on your own time. But right now, we are going to cover this chart from Long-Term Trends, and got some really good advice from a commenter in a previous video that, hey, you got to zoom in on your graphs so that we can see a little better, and I took that to heart. So hopefully this is close enough. And what I'm going to do actually, so this is from Long-Term Trends. I will put this link in the comments. Sorry, I did it again. I will put this link in the description of the video as well. This information from Long-Term Trends to populate this chart came from the NASDAQ, and it came from Yahoo Finance. So pretty reputable sources. Now, having said that, I have seen some differences in even some of the numbers that were in Mike's article as compared to this one. However, it's really hard to get good data, and I think you're going to get the gist of it, even if the highs and lows might be a little bit different between the article and here. So what's awesome about this chart is it goes all the way back to, let's see here if I can find the date, it's 1694. That's pretty crazy. And what's interesting is you can see as we go around this line here, gold and silver stays pretty close. It's in that 15-16-1 range, and it really doesn't start picking up until we get into the late 1800s and into the 1900s. And I find that interesting, ladies and gentlemen, because this is roughly around the time that we started to see the rise of the commercial banks, the large institutional and national banks, the central banks. And do I think that's a coincidence? Well, from the words of Finding Nemo and the dentist, or was it orthodontist? Regardless, you all know the meme, the GIF. Coincidence? I think not. I think there's something to that. So you start to see then the volatility spike. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit more here. And again, this is a really cool chart, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that you get to check it out. The reason that I like this is it highlights a couple of key events, and we're going to cover them. So in 1919, this is actually the lowest, one of the lowest points that we saw the gold and silver ratio at 18-1, and this is right at the end of World War II. Now you can see from that time, going. Right here is 1930s. We know this is when the Great Depression hit. It just really skyrockets. It goes from that 35-ish range all the way, it pops here in 1931 as 71-1. We have a little bit of a pullback here in the mid 1930s, and then right at the start of World War II, it spikes at 99, almost 100, right at 100 if you round it to 1. Then it starts to drop again at the end of the war, going lower. 1968, when we see the 1968 gold crisis, it gets as low as 16.75-1. And in fact, actually, right at the inflation scare in the 1980s, it was right down at 22-1, 20-1. And then we see as time goes on, as the crisis gets worse, the gold-silver ratio explodes, and at the first Gulf War is some of its highest that it's been, right in that 90 range. And you can see it kind of goes back down as we go into the 2000s, a little bit of a pop here, and then right at, this would have been at the start of the Great Recession. Let me see if I can get the numbers right here. December 2008, it's at 78-1. We get through the end of that, it goes back down to 40, and then we see a steady climb in that ratio up until we get to the great medical crisis, we'll just say that, and then we see it kind of fluctuate, and it's hanging out in that 80 to 85 range. So why am I showing you this? Why is it important? So we know historically that gold and silver has been in that, let's say, 8-1 to 15-1 range. A lot of governments were estimating its value around that. That's what they were setting their ratios to be. We know that it comes out of the ground at 8-1, and yet right now we're hanging out in that 85-ish range. What gives? Well, I'm kind of with you on this. I don't understand why the gold-silver ratio is that high, especially when you see that gold itself, ladies and gentlemen, doesn't have the value that silver does. Not only is silver a precious metal, but silver, and again, this is just my opinion, do your own research, that silver has so much more value. I have a video called 10 Reasons to Buy Silver. Check that video out. I give some more details in there. It's an article that kind of covers some of the high points of silver, and one of those is the gold and silver ratio. Now, historically, gold and silver have been in the mid-50s, mid-60s value. Right now, it's at 85-1. So just from an average trend, silver is, one could argue, at a discount compared to gold. And again, on top of that, silver has so much more industrial value. I think it's very interesting to see those trends, and I've heard of other stackers, of other content creators on the internet actually timing their purchases of gold and silver based upon what they see the gold and silver ratio to be. For some, they say, hey, and I've actually heard this number before, if it's 80-1, 85-1, 90-1, I'm going to switch to buying silver. If it's around that 60-ish range, I'm going to start buying gold. So, not investment advice, but to give you just an idea of what some other people are doing. To me, this from the chart tells me, especially with the research that I've done on silver, seems like there might be an opportunity here. But I would love to know in the comments what you guys think. Please tell me what you're thinking on this. Do you think that there's value in silver right now compared to gold? Or do you still see that gold just has that store of value, and to get that out of people's minds is just not going to happen? So you're going heavy into gold. Would love to hear your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Be blessed and be a blessing to others. We'll see you later.